On September 19, 2025, President Donald Trump confirmed that U.S. forces struck a third Venezuelan vessel in international waters, killing 3 people. The White House claimed the boat was carrying cocaine and fentanyl, and officials described the operation as part of Washington's expanded campaign against Venezuelan trafficking networks. With this, opposition surfaced quickly from Washington. House Democratic National Security leaders Gregory Meeks, Adam Smith, Jim Himes, and Benny Thompson issued a joint statement, saying the administration failed to secure congressional authorization, arguing that 3 men on a small vessel did not constitute an imminent threat requiring military force. Trump rejected those criticisms and pointed to what he described as proof, saying the strike was necessary to protect Americans. In an effort to protect its citizens from what he described as a narco-terrorism threat, President Trump stated that military strikes on Venezuelan boats were necessary. The Trump administration accused Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his associates of leading the Cartel of the Suns, a criminal network that allegedly profited from trafficking large amounts of cocaine and fentanyl into the U.S. In direct response to this perceived threat, the administration doubled the reward for Maduro's arrest from $25 million to $50 million. Moreover, in response to U.S. accusations and threats of military strikes, Venezuela's government under President Nicolas Maduro has characterized the actions as an undeclared war and a politically motivated effort to achieve regime change and seize the country's resources. They have denied all links to drug trafficking and dismissed the Cartel of the Suns accusation as fake news. But the U.S. didn't believe Maduro. U.S. officials, including the White House press secretary and the Attorney General, have publicly stated that the U.S. views the Maduro regime as illegitimate. An indictment unsealed in the Southern District of New York charges Nicolas Maduro and 14 other high-ranking Venezuelan officials with narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, and other criminal charges. The document explicitly states that since at least 1999, Maduro and his co-defendants have acted as leaders of the Cartel de los Soles, or Cartel of the Suns. The indictment alleges that the drug trafficking operation was made possible because Maduro and his co-conspirators corrupted the legitimate institutions of Venezuela, including parts of the military, intelligence apparatus, legislature, and judiciary. This corruption allowed the cartel to use state infrastructure, such as the presidential hangar at Maiquetía Airport, to facilitate cocaine shipments. The U.S. has also implemented a maximum pressure strategy against Venezuela through a series of comprehensive sanctions and military actions. High-ranking Venezuelan officials, including President Maduro and his wife, have had their assets frozen and visas revoked. Additionally, sanctions have been placed on Petróleos de Venezuela, the state-owned oil company that serves as the backbone of the nation's economy. Beyond economic measures, the U.S. has also employed diplomatic and military pressure. It does not recognize Nicolas Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate president, having instead officially recognized opposition leaders, first Juan Guaidó and now Edmundo González, as the rightful government since 2019. In the 2024 Venezuelan presidential election, the opposition coalition Plataforma Unitaria rallied behind Edmundo González after Maria Corina Machado, the original frontrunner, was barred from running. The opposition claims González actually won by a wide margin, and they produced tally sheets from polling stations to back this up. However, the official result published by the government-controlled Electoral Authority announced Maduro as the winner, but didn't release full precinct-level results. Protests erupted with opposition supporters claiming the vote was stolen, but the Supreme Court, loyal to Maduro, upheld the official results. The U.S. and other Western countries said González was the legitimate winner, while allies of Maduro like Russia, China, and Cuba recognized him instead. Maduro's rigged victory dealt a blow to the U.S. because it meant Washington would not have an ally in curbing the flow of narcotics to the U.S. With Maduro, there's zero chance of real cooperation on drug interdiction. In fact, U.S. prosecutors accuse his regime of being part of the problem. If González or another U.S.-aligned leader had taken office, Washington could have shifted to joint enforcement operations like intel sharing and coordinated sea patrols, which likely would have been more effective than trying to police Caribbean waters with destroyers and subs. With Maduro in power and no chance of cooperation, Washington's toolkit shrinks fast, resorting to sanctions, indictments, and brute force. It's basically the U.S. saying, if we can't work with you, we'll work around you, and we'll do it with overwhelming firepower. In a significant escalation from traditional drug interdiction, the U.S. military has also conducted a series of lethal kinetic strikes, on vessels it claims are linked to Venezuelan drug cartels. Venezuelan officials condemn U.S. sanctions as unilateral coercive measures and an act of economic warfare, blaming them for the nation's severe economic collapse, hyperinflation, and humanitarian crisis. Far from weakening the government, these sanctions have reportedly solidified the resolve of President Maduro's inner circle, reinforcing their collective opposition to the U.S. In response to being cut off from Western financial systems, Venezuela has deepened its strategic alliances with U.S. adversaries like Russia, China, and Iran, which have provided crucial loans, military supplies, and political support. Following an announcement on Truth Social and a White House press conference, President Trump confirmed that the U.S. Navy carried out an airstrike on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat in the southern Caribbean. The strike, conducted on September 2nd, reportedly killed all 11 people on board. The Trump administration claimed the vessel was operated by members of the Tren de Aragua gang. The U.S. State Department's 2025 International Narcotics Control Strategy report describes Venezuela as a major drug transit nation and key trafficking route. Shipments often move from Colombia, the world's largest cocaine producer, across porous borders into Venezuela, with vessels departing from Sucre and nearby states. From there, traffickers follow two main routes: the Caribbean corridor, moving through Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands to South Florida, and sometimes further to the northeast, and the Mexico corridor, passing through Central America into Mexico and ultimately crossing the U.S. southwest border. After the initial strike on September 2nd, the U.S. military continued its campaign against alleged Venezuelan drug boats. On September 15th, President Trump announced a second kinetic strike that took place in international waters, killing 3 people. A video of this incident was also released. Furthermore, a third strike was carried out on September 19th, which President Trump again announced on social media. This attack also resulted in the deaths of 3 people, bringing the total number of confirmed deaths from these strikes to at least 17. Following the September 2 strike, Venezuelan Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello stated that a subsequent investigation found none of the 11 people killed were members of the Tren de Aragua gang. In response to the U.S. strikes, Venezuela has undertaken a series of specific actions to bolster its defenses. It initiated large-scale military exercises in the Caribbean, codenamed Operation Sovereign Caribbean, to simulate a defensive response to a foreign invasion. These drills involve the mobilization of naval, air, and coastal defense forces, including submarines and fighter jets. Furthermore, President Maduro has called on citizens to join and actively participate in the Bolivarian militia, a civilian armed force. The militia has been put on high alert and is conducting training exercises alongside the regular military, focusing on irregular warfare tactics and coastal defense to prepare for a potential ground invasion. To strengthen its position, Venezuela has also been leveraging its military alliances with Russia and China. This has included the deployment of Russian-made S-300 missile defense systems and Sukhoi Su-30 fighter jets to coastal areas. There have also been unconfirmed reports of the presence of Chinese naval vessels in the region, which would serve as a clear message of support from Beijing. The escalating cycle of accusations, sanctions, and military strikes has pushed U.S.-Venezuela relations into their most volatile stage in decades. While Washington frames its actions as a necessary defense against narco-terrorism and transnational crime, Caracas views them as part of a broader campaign of regime change and economic warfare. Venezuela's mobilization of military forces and deepening ties with Russia and China signal that the confrontation is no longer limited to drug interdiction, but has expanded into a geopolitical flashpoint with global implications. As both governments harden their positions, the risk of further escalation and the potential for miscalculation looms large, leaving the international community to weigh the consequences of a conflict that increasingly threatens regional stability.